Welcome to Green and Growing, the podcast where we dig into strategies and stories that help you thrive in business and in life. I'm Wade Perry, and today I'm excited to sit down with a dear friend of mine who brings both heart and expertise to her work, Renette Greer. Renette is a Colorado-based estate planning and elder law attorney, but her story goes much deeper than her profession. As a wife, a mother, and a daughter, she knows firsthand the importance of protecting loved ones across generations. And that's why she often describes her work as servitude at the multi-generational level. I love that. Servitude at the multi-generational level. And at Renette's firm, Greer Law in Littleton, Renette helps families with everything from wills and trusts to Medicaid planning, special needs planning, probate, and estate administration. She's also a passionate advocate for seniors, which kind of scary that I'm approaching that. Protecting them from the rising costs of long-term care and from the risks of financial fraud and abuse, which is, quite frankly, a really, really scary thing. Her approach is personal, it's thoughtful, and it's deeply rooted in building lasting relationships. I can say this because, well, she's my attorney. And because estate planning isn't just about documents, it's about people and the legacies that they leave behind. Today, we're going to dive into the myths and the misconceptions around estate planning, the key milestones in life that make planning essential, and the pitfalls that come from poor or delayed preparation. And let me tell you, if you think an estate plan is going to cost a few nickels, wait until you find out what happens when you don't use one. Welcome, Renette. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much, Wade. And boy, I hope I live up to that introduction. I'm impressed with myself. So, but yeah,
Well,
thank you
I'm
so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, good. Well, Lori and I, first of all, we've been fond of you for a while, but seeing you in action and shifting into the professional mode of helping our family, I felt remiss to say shame on me for not sharing this with anybody and everybody that will listen and take seriously the advantages of working with you. So let's get into this. I love how your journey into law was actually sparked by none other than your mother, who wanted you to be a doctor. And in true teenage angst, you decided that law was the exact opposite, despite the fact that there was additional schooling. How did that decision shape your path, and why estate law out of all of the other types of law that are out there?
Sure. Yeah. If my mom's listening, then she's probably giggling about this. I hope enough time has passed. But yes, I was pretty rebellious, and my mom, she's retired now, but she it was a renowned biochemist, and yep. So she did tons of research out there, spoke all over the world about the iron uptake and transferring and all these things that I did not understand nor care to understand. She really wanted me to follow in her footsteps.
Mm,
And being the rebellious teen that I was, and also keep in mind this is the mid to late 90s, and
hmm
couldn't really just hop on Google and, start searching things up, let alone, consult AI and say, what are some alternative career options? So in my, underdeveloped teen brain, I thought, oh, if medicine is on one end of the spectrum, clearly law is on the other, right? So polar opposites. That's sort of where I started. I took a couple of classes in undergrad, pre-law classes that I didn't just dive into it straight out of teen angst, but, I went in knowing a little bit about it. And then, when I got to law school, I, was a big fan of Aaron Brockovich, really Julia
sure.
Roberts. You and I had talked about legal movies, and that one didn't come to mind. But I was like, oh, yeah, the Aaron Brockovich story. This is really,
hmm
very important work. I'm going into law to help people. And so my second year of law school, I got to take a couple electives and I took environmental law at the same time I was taking estate planning. I
Mm.
obviously was looking forward to environmental law, and estate planning merely just fit into my schedule, had the right number of credits. I was like, I'm just going to get through it. Turns out estate planning, I mean, the environmental law was actually bored me to tears. We were just arguing about who owned the rights to minerals or, things like that
Mm.
in the ground, and was not nearly as glamorous as, you know, I'd been led to believe in my, again, my mind. And then estate planning, it just lit me up. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many ways that you can help people. It help families avoid problems, save money, preserve relationships, all sorts of things. And I just took to it right away. I'm like, I can see a immediate impact rather than, most other types of law where it kind of trickles down and, you're tied up for years, perhaps in litigation. And so, it's kind of funny because ultimately, I ended up doing what my mom probably wanted for me was, just, being happy in a career where I was helping others, right? So, that
Mhm.
doctors help their patients and, help with them with their health. And, I feel like I'm helping people on a very practical level and, very tangible level with their families. So maybe I wasn't so rebellious after all, Mom.
No, I think that she instilled in you, from the sounds of it, that she had an air of servitude about her in helping out humanity. And I can completely see where you're coming from, that sitting in a classroom about environmental law, and you come to learn that this is really going to be about fighting and fighting with other people over rights to assets and this and that, and it'll be tied up forever. It may or may not set a precedent, and it could be years before you see any impact from what you're doing, as opposed to on the estate side. You can literally go to bed at night, put your head on the pillow, and know that you changed somebody's life that day.
Mhm.
That's big. And that's actually a good dovetail into our second topic, which is, describing estate law as servitude at the multi-generational level. Really a powerful, powerful phrase that I think that most of the public probably looks at estate law, estate planning, this and that as this thing that I'm supposed to do, kind of like
Correct.
flossing your teeth. And I really don't want to. But if they were to listen to that phrase, servitude at the multi-generational level, it starts to take on a life of its own that can literally be the difference of millions of dollars down the line to subsequent generations. What does multi-generational servitude mean to you in your practice? And I mean, how does that show up when you work with families?
Sure, absolutely. So, uh, estate planning isn't just about the here and now, the assets. We're talking about parents or grandparents planning for their children, grandchildren, and further on, even potentially down the line, right? And so it's not about just passing the stuff. It's passing, what that how that money was earned, how, what it has meant to the family, what it has allowed the family to do, and what it can continue to allow them to like that. We're talking about a legacy and really thinking forward into the future. It's about stewardship, right? You worked hard to earn this money. You don't want to just let it go to, just get frittered away on either legal bills or, not planning wisely and, potentially there being an estate tax issue or anything like that. So with wise planning and, really proactive steps, you can make a difference in the lives of maybe people you haven't even met before
Mm.
great grandchildren, right? So it really is about taking care of the future, taking care of your loved ones, and, by helping families make these decisions, I'm not just preparing documents, right? That
No, you most
they
certainly are not.
it's sometimes I get the question from people who are looking to potentially work with me, and oh well, how are you different than LegalZoom, right? Well, it's
Hmm.
that's the component, right? I don't just prepare the documents. Those are just simply a means to an end, but I help families think through what they'd like their legacy to look like, what potential, you know, problems or pitfalls might be out there that they're not aware of, and really get them to think holistically about not only their own futures but also those of their children. So I think it's a very, yeah, very big picture, and as
Hmm.
you zoom out, and it's not an individual or personalized experience. It's much bigger than that. So
Well, I can attest, we're going to talk about this in a few minutes from our own personal experience. It is definitely not a legal Zoom type of experience. No two families are the same. No two individuals are the same. No two desires for legacy are the same. No two sets of assets are the same. And therefore, it necessitates a very holistic, customized approach. And I know that from 20 something years ago when I was in the financial world, there was a very basic saying when it came to the estate planning world, and that is if you do not want the United States government to be your primary beneficiary, you need an estate plan. And that was the hook. And but it really pertained at that point to people that have a lot of money. And that's not the case today. There are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of applications for people that don't have very much money at all that need to talk to you. So let's dig into this for a minute. There are many misconceptions and myths out there in the public about estate planning. And they think either well, I'm going to let you share with it. What do you think are the more common misconceptions or myths or falsehoods that are out there in the public?
and I could fill probably a single podcast just on those. So, first, I'd kind of like to walk it back a little bit and say what an estate plan is. I think a lot of times people think they know what an estate plan is, and I start a lot of my presentations out by addressing this. It's just a simple slide that says estate planning, and what does that bring to mind when you hear it? And so, you mentioned the first one. Oh, yeah, it's just for the wealthy, or oh, it's for people with children, or oh, it's to avoid taxes, or just, and it's not that any of those are incorrect. It's just that it's a much broader picture than I think people realize. So the foundation of an estate plan, the one most people are familiar with, is the will, the last will and testament. So obviously that one. Then you have your medical documents, and you have the advance directive or living will. That's that document that sets out your wishes for an end of life situation. You also have a HIPAA authorization, and then a medical power of attorney, and then you have your financial power of attorney. So those are really the basic documents that all estate plans should cover. And then we can get a bit more sophisticated by including trusts, and we that can be a whole episode as well, just on trusts alone. So, I won't be kind of delving into those. I'll just speak generally about them. But I think that's probably the biggest misconception, is that people think it's about just dealing with their stuff. Those powers of attorney, frankly, I think are perhaps more important even than the will and the trust, because those deal
Hmm.
with your physical health and making sure that you are naming an agent who's going to step in and act on your behalf if you're not able to, and that they also will follow your wishes, right? And that's, I
Hmm.
think, a lot more important than, at the end of the day, the stuff usually gets figured out. for better or worse, right? But you don't want to have to find yourself in a position where you're in a hospital bed and no one knows what you want and no one's authorized to make those decisions for you. So that's probably my biggest one is sort of an incomplete understanding of what estate planning is.
Mm.
The others are, like you said, it's just for the wealthy. And really, there is no minimum threshold of what an estate consists of, right? We don't have to be talking about Downton Abbey or something like that, right? It's just, uh, I mean, especially with the value of homes these days, right? You know how much that is. Whether there's some fluctuation or not, these are significant assets, and having a plan for that is really important. If there's life insurance, if there's if there's children, yeah, we really need to start talking about a plan. So there really needs to be something there. The other misconception is even when people are aware of their estate and all of this, oh, my family knows what I want. I've already talked to them. Well, that's great, but a lot of times that's not going to be honored legally, right? Especially if you don't have a will and perhaps you have a child that has been estranged from you for a while, and and then you have a couple other kids who are very much in your lives and have been there for you, and you've maintained a relationship. But
Mhm.
if you pass away without a will in place or a trust that states your wishes for those distributions, the statutes take over, and your three children would be entitled to equal shares, and that may not have been your plan.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
even if you discuss that plan with you know, all of your family members and everyone's on board, but the state has, the state statutes have a different plan in mind.
Do you think there's a misconception or a myth out there when it comes to estate planning that it's just a will and it's just a trust?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
so much more than that. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Well,
yeah, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, so I was just scribbling some notes, and the first thing that you talked about is that most don't understand what is involved in estate planning, and that it's extremely broad in its application. It's not simply just for wealthy or just if you have kids, etc. There's so much more to it. And the second thing is that there's the biggest problem is that people assume, we all know what happens when you assume that my family knows what I want. Well, first of all, your wishes may change.
Mhm.
Maybe all of a sudden your favorite child becomes the black sheep. You don't know. But I wrote down one encompassing sentence as you were going through this. If you don't make decisions and document them, somebody else will make them for you. Does that kind of sum up all of
Yes.
it? In that I don't know why it hit me. Maybe it's just because I spent so many hours with you going through our own plan, but that could be everything from maybe it's a second marriage and we need to have assets, tenants in common instead of rights of survivorship. Maybe it is, and we'll talk about some of these life moments in a moment, but there are so many different decisions once you start down what I would call the lifetime flow chart of, okay, I'm here and now this is my life change, and now I'm going this way, and now this is my life change, and now I'm going this way. And at every juncture, there may or may not need to be different decisions made about who receives what and when and how. And these things are all fluid. This isn't a one-stop shop. You get the document, put it in the desk drawer, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say that that's kind of the trick to estate planning, right? We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what what your assets are going to look like. We don't know what your family dynamic is going to be. We don't know what causes are going to be important to you. We don't know what your health situation
Mm,
is going to be. So it's definitely not a one and done type of situation. These documents are meant to evolve with you over the course of your lifetime, right? You uh, simply talking about marriages, divorces, second marriages, births, deaths, all of that. But, just as time goes on, right, your assets are
hmm
going to continue to grow and accumulate, and then you have different asset classes or different types of things. You mentioned it right there. You buy a home. Should we be doing this in joint tenancy, tenants in common? Does it make sense to have it in a trust? What is the best way to own that type of property and accomplish your goals? And um, really an estate plan should be designed so that it can be specific enough. However, also we need to build in that flexibility for the future as well. And I think it's very important that people don't take the ostrich approach to it.
mm, mm.
I I think we talked
That's a good
about
phrase.
how, yeah, I think we talked about, and a lot of people do think, oh, it's so morbid, right? And
Mm,
I was thinking about this after I finished answering the multi-generational servitude. Like, this is an act of love for your family, right?
oh, good one. Good
Yeah,
one.
this shouldn't be seen as, oh, morbid and doom and gloom. This is really, you are taking an active role in planning for your family, telling them what you'd like. So many times people come in and, oh yeah, my daughter is named as my medical power of attorney. Oh, well, it doesn't seem like, as we're talking, maybe you guys don't have the best relationship. Well,
Mm.
she's the oldest one, so I put her first. Well,
Ooh.
perhaps that might be something we want to talk about, delve a little bit further. So it's you're obviously making sure your wishes are,
hmm
your interests are being protected by proactively naming who's going to make those best decisions. But also, if you guys don't have the best relationship, maybe that's going to put a strain on your eldest daughter and,
hmm
the siblings that follow. Maybe that's not the best situation for them as well, right? They may argue, there may be problems. So really, you're taking a bigger look at what the dynamics are, what you're looking to accomplish. And I think we talked about this, where, if you look online, you'll see the advice of, how often should I review my estate plan? Every 3 to 5 years. That seems to
hmm
be something I stumble across pretty often. And to be honest, I really don't like that.
This is actually a great segue into our next question or our next topic. Life does not move by the calendar, it moves by events.
Mhm.
And so when we went through the process with you, it really became clear that these are working documents. It's a work in progress journey. So this is a perfect segue into, what are the milestones, not
Sure.
calendar dates, but what are the milestones in the course of a life that should trigger people to say, I need to call Renette, and we either need to start our estate process or we need to update it. What are those milestones that you think are most common that people would relate to?
I'm going to start with the one that's probably least popular, turning 18. You are an adult when you are 18. Um, I don't,
By the way, this one really opened my eyes. And I think all of you listeners out there, you need to pay attention right now, because this really sets the table for all the other milestones. Go ahead.
yeah. So, and hopefully there's a lot of 18-year-olds listening right now, and they're going to get on this, but more likely than not, it's going to be their parents, kind of
hmm
spurring them on and encouraging them to be, responsible adults taking some action, right? But if you and I are in an accident right now, and we don't have a power of attorney, it makes sense that, you know nobody would like, why would my mom be making my medical decisions for me, right?
Hmm.
But when your child turns 18, in your mind, they're not an adult, right? They're still my kid.
Far
My
from it.
well, Amelia, she'll be
Yep.
18 in January. She's
And
going to
by
be
the
going up
way, an incredibly responsible young adult, but
yes.
still could use a few more laps around the sun like
Well,
everybody
absolutely.
else.
But even at the basic level of if she's in a car accident and I hear about it, I'm not going to be able to call the hospital and say, "Hey, my daughter's been in an accident. Is she okay?" She's a legal adult. The hospital can't not give me information on her condition. So at the
Let's
very
pause there just for one quick
sure.
second. So just so I got this right for everybody out there, because I'm in the slow learning group. If your child is 18 or older and they're in a very, very bad car accident or any other tragic event, you as the parent, I as the parent, do not have the authority to make any decisions whatsoever in the eyes of the medical community. Did I get that right? And they're going to rely on, is there a directive? Is there some legal document guiding us? Am I close on this?
You are, not just the medical community, the legal one as well. So
Mm,
there needs to be a power of attorney, HIPAA authorization at the very least, and that's different than the HIPAA authorization you do at your doctor's office. That one is more medical professional to medical professional insurance company, and the
okay,
HIPAA authorization that I encourage everyone to have lists their family members, so anybody can get information. The difference between that and the power of attorney is the power of attorney allows someone to make decisions in the event that they're unable to,
sure.
right? And
Okay.
so yes, you
So
absolutely
18's a big one.
yes. So 18 is a big one. And then when um, when you get married, or if you're in a long-term relationship, if we're mixing assets, whether that's a first marriage, second, subsequent marriages, anytime you're blending assets, right? You want to have something in place, right? That's one of those where again, like, oh yeah, if you the Colorado, we're pretty good about having we've adopted the uniform probate and trust code, so things are very streamlined. However, it still is a lot easier if you have documents that say, yes, I want my
Hmm.
spouse to make these decisions, I want my spouse to be the personal representative, right? You're setting that out in clear, concise, easy to understand language. So yes, when you get married, when even if you're not married, but you start, you have a home, you start accumulating some significant assets, you want to have something in place that directs where those assets will go. If you have financial accounts, and you'll know from well, life experience, but also your time in the financial industry,
Hmm.
right? Beneficiary designations are what control those financial accounts. So those are usually fine. But if we have a house, that
Mm-mm.
that's going to have to go through probate to transfer to someone else.
Hey, real
So
quick, just
mhm,
where we're on that magic word probate that you help people with, it was long said, and I want you to correct me, that it takes 9 months to get into this world, and it takes about 9 months to get out of this world. Is the probate process, how long does that typically go? I realize there's not a standard answer, but for the people out there that don't know, if you have not designated beneficiaries for certain assets like a house, how long could it go?
so the first thing that they teach you in law school is to answer every question with "it depends," right? So yes, it depends. However, so Colorado, as I mentioned, we are one of the friendlier states when it comes to transferring assets after someone's passed away because we have that uniform probate code. However, that being said, you still need to go through that process. And it's, you know, nowhere near as bad as California that, there you get things get tied up, even with a beautiful, well executed, fully funded estate plan, things do get tied up for a long time. But I'd say 9 months probably would be about the average for anything that's
Okay.
not contested. If you followed, all the requirements for
Hmm.
probate, if you the earliest that you can really distribute an estate is roughly around 6 months if you've complied with all of the requirements. Otherwise, if you're missing a few of them, then you have to wait at least a year to make those distributions. So it can get tied up for a long time. It can
Wow.
be fairly costly. By costly, it's more, the attorney time, right? We have
Hmm.
the probate system is similar to the IRS forms, right? You can get all your tax forms online. You go to irs.gov, 1040, the schedules, everything. You can print those off. You can go to the Colorado Courts webpage and they have all of your probate forms there. But similar to filing your taxes, if it's not something that you do regularly, it's probably not in your best interest and, the interest of all the other beneficiaries, the assets for you to go it alone, right? And so that's where it's time consuming, could potentially be expensive. And again, if you don't know what you don't know, you can create a
Hmm.
bigger problem than, you had in the first place.
What you just brought up reminds me of a very funny joke, and that is you don't need running shoes to be a runner, but they really help. And so I look at that and say, no, yeah, you can cut your own hair, you can change your own oil. That's easy stuff. The hair will grow back. But an estate plan, we're talking about potential pitfalls if it's not done properly or not done at all. Which actually brings us to another great. We are on the Segway train today. This is
Yeah, we
awesome.
are. Yeah.
So, if you would share with the audience some of the more common pitfalls that come from poor planning or lack of planning. And I know you probably have a bad analogy, a graveyard full of examples that were either taught to you in law school or in your practice.
Sure.
But when somebody plans poorly, which I guess could be they established a plan, never funded it, never changed titling of things, or they did and never updated things after certain life events, or they just didn't do anything at all. Can you share, say, one, two, three horror stories? And obviously, we don't want to go into great detail. We don't want to share
Sure.
names, but
Sure.
examples of where people would say, "Oh God, I don't want that to happen to me."
Sure. Well, horror stories, given that it's October now, I can have some, yeah. But I'd say honestly, the one that I see more often than not, and it breaks my heart, is similar to what we were talking about with the not having those powers of attorney in place, right? It's not just for your kid who's 18. A lot of times I have adult children contact me and dad had a stroke and he doesn't have a power of attorney. And so can we do a power of attorney now? Well, maybe, maybe not. Is there, does dad have capacity? Does dad know what he is signing? Does dad
Mhm.
know the legal ramifications? And if there's not capacity to understand those things, then he can't sign the documents, and therefore the only other alternative is to pursue a guardianship or a conservatorship through the courts. And talk
Mm.
about expensive and time consuming and invasive. And it's just that is a really difficult process to go through, especially when maybe time is of the essence, right? Like maybe medical decisions need to be made. And, now you're in limbo because the nobody's been appointed, right? So that's probably the one I see more consistently than others, right? I've seen,
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of DIY estate planning, with real estate. That's a one probably that I run into often as well, where mom and dad bought the house, I don't know, in the 70s, 80s, and they are still living in the house. And maybe one of them has passed away, and oh well, it makes sense. Maybe let's put the kid on the title to the property. So, they own it jointly now. And then when, you know, dad has passed away, now we put, the son and mom on the title to the property
Hmm.
together. Well, when mom eventually passes away, yeah, it's really smooth and easy, right? The joint ownership,
Hmm.
it's just automatic, except for the
Yep.
fact that you have now that child is now taken on that original tax basis, which,
Mm.
if that, yeah, I mean, it could be less than $100,000, and now, the property's worth, $2 million, right? And then they get killed on taxes. Whereas if that would have gone through kind of the probate or estate administration process, you have the full step up in basis to the fair market value at the date of death. So that's another one I've seen and
Mm.
is heartbreaking to explain, because it's
Their intentions were good,
yeah,
but by adding your child to the title of your real estate, you have basically admonished that step up in basis. They will assume the basis of the parents, and there will be a wickedly large tax bill
oh
due because that child will not get the $500,000 marital exclusion. They're going to be responsible for all of it or 250 as an
yeah,
exclusion.
yeah,
That's not,
yeah,
that is, that right there in and of itself is where that multi-generational servitude comes in.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay, give us another one.
Um, well, so horror story.
Hmm.
I had, this is also someone who didn't have a plan. The mom came to me. Her son he had been killed in a terrible car accident, and he was he was going to get a very large settlement. And he was in his 30s, didn't have any estate plan, and mom had raised him and in the picture whatsoever. And because he did not have an estate plan, the state statute says if you're not married, you don't have children, it goes to your parents. And so the
Oh
mom
boy.
who raised these kids had, worked, several different jobs, then, to just provide for them, ended up having to split the settlement. It was very significant with the dad who hadn't been in the picture at all. And so it was, yeah. And I mean,
Oof.
obviously
That
nobody's,
is as much emotionally scarring as it is financially.
mhm. Oh no, it was
Ouch.
that was, and I'm certain I never met the man who passed away, obviously,
Yeah.
but he was by all
Probably wanted
accounts
it to go
very
to his mama.
healthy. Yeah, and he was very healthy, very, young, and he thought he had tons of time. And, we never know.
Number
Right?
one fallacy of life. You
Yep,
do not have the time you think you have. You just don't.
yep.
Which actually, for the sake of time, I want to give a quick summary for the audience of some of the notes that I've taken. And then I'm going to have you share with the audience a tool that they can reach out to you, a free tool to help them start on this process. And then we'll wrap up. Sound good?
Yep, sounds great.
So here's really some of the things that I took away for all of you in the audience. Number one, you've worked really hard your whole life. And it doesn't matter whether you've amassed a fortune or just a nest egg. It doesn't really matter. You've worked hard your whole life, and you owe it to yourself and your family to make the decisions to who gets what, when, and how. Number two, estate planning is not just for the wealthy. It's not just for people who have kids or people who want to, skirt taxes. And most people don't understand how far encompassing and broad the world of estate planning is. Many people just assume that the family knows what you want. And I can promise you, as somebody who just buried his dad 2 years ago, I did not know exactly what my dad wanted. There was a time in my life when I knew what he wanted, but as people get older and older, they tend to change what they want. Next, if you don't make decisions intentionally and actively and document them, somebody else, also known as the court, likely will make the decisions for you, and they probably won't be what you wanted. Number three, it is an act of love. That is a brilliant way to state it. This isn't morbid. No one's getting out alive. Okay. I saw this poster, this quote from Steve McQueen: attack life. It's going to get you someday anyhow. And the last thing that I wrote down that it kind of encompasses things, and that is, if you think about when you're going to need an estate plan to be in place, if you haven't done it, it's already too late. But usually when you need the benefits of an estate plan to take effect, for instance, your 18, 19-year-old child is in a tragic accident. You are going to pass away with significant assets. You are going to get remarried and now need assets to be divided different ways. There are dozens and dozens of these examples, but every one of these examples involves complex decision making. It's a complex situation. It's usually a very emotionally charged situation as well. And what the estate plan does is it simplifies the decision making. It simplifies the process. So when you're in a period of flux, of emotional concern, you don't have to worry about, am I in the right state of mind to make this decision? It's already been made when you were in the right state of mind. So it simplifies the decision making on all of your life's hard work at a time in your life when you need simplicity the most. Does that kind of wrap it all?
Yes, I really like that. You
Well,
nailed it.
all it means, Renette, is I listened.
Good
You
job.
be sure to share that with Lori, that I was a good listener.
I will. Next time I'll see her.
Okay, so everybody out there, Renette has a wonderful set of tools. These are free. All you need to do is email Renette. Renette, what do you have to share with our audience?
So yes, I have two PDFs. One is it's the 10 things every family should review in their estate plan. And then the second one is a family conversation toolkit, because hopefully people have gotten the takeaway that the estate plan is more than the documents. It's more than that binder that sits on the shelf that hopefully you're reviewing regularly. But it's about conversations. It's about letting your family know where the documents are, what your wishes are. And, hopefully you have ongoing conversations, right? And I'd like to actually piggyback on that, that as we're going into the holiday season, right? Thanksgiving is going to be coming up, and, we're going to be stuck for better or worse, you're oftentimes stuck with your family, right? Like you eat a big meal, then it's an all day affair, right? Rather than just saying, okay, well, we're going to watch some football, or we're going to,
Hmm.
whatever it is that you're going to do. Maybe this is a good time to start that conversation, right? You don't have to have this big, heavy sit down of, oh, everybody, we're going to go talk about this. Just mention, hey, I listened to this podcast and it got me thinking, do you guys even know where my estate plan is? Should something happen to me? Or, hey, this is what you'll, there is, there'll be some money coming your way, and this is how I'd like you to kind of care for it. And, my intention is that it's there for your children and their children. So,
I think that is a perfect wrap up, that the holidays are coming. You will have a forum to have a conversation in a casual manner, a serious manner, however you want to do. But I think the hook, the attention grab is, hey kids, there might be some nickels at the end of the rainbow for you. Pull up a chair. We got to talk. So, Renette, I really thank you. What is the email address that people should write to get these 2 free PDFs?
yeah, you can reach out, and if you have any questions, either it's not just for the PDFs, but if you're looking for more information, or if you'd like to, see about scheduling an initial consultation to see if we're a right fit, and you can reach us at info at greer-law.com, GREER law.com. And
That
our
is
phone number is,
go.
our phone,
Go, no,
sorry.
go.
Yeah, for those of you who still use phones, you can call 303-997-9200, and you can just ask for the PDFs as well that way. And Cammie will be
One more time, the phone number.
303-997-9200.
Well, Renette, I can speak to the audience with 100% conviction that you are a testament to your industry. You have changed my family's life, and I know that I am not the only one. I think that everybody that's listening and watching this should take stock and look at their own life and ask themselves, do I have decisions made and documented in place for either the inevitable or the unforeseeable? And if you don't, or if you're just not sure, give Renette a call. She's right in Littleton, and I'm going to tell you, she makes what is a complex process or a complex topic very clear, very simple, very understandable. I can't recommend you highly enough, Renette. You changed our family's life, and I hope you do the same for everybody on this call. Well,
Thanks,
ladies
Lee.
and
That
gentlemen,
really means a lot.
thanks for joining us in this episode of Green and Growing. If this episode sparked something in you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe wherever you listen. Stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, YouTube as well, for inspiration and exclusive content. And remember, life is about progress, not perfection. Cheers to Green and Growing, and we'll see you in the next episode. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Green and Growing. I'm your host, Wade Perry of the Perry Properties Group at eXp.